Once upon a time, in a quiet little workshop at the edge of town, there lived an old pencil, one that had traveled through a long and meaningful journey. It wasn't just an ordinary object. It had been a silent witness to countless emotions, dreams, and stories, written line by line. Long ago, this pencil had learned 5 timeless lessons about life, lessons that gave its existence true meaning. Over the years, its body grew shorter, its paint chipped, and its graphite wore thin. But none of that made it sad. In fact, the pencil felt proud. For all its life, it had served a purpose, helping people express feelings, capture knowledge, and sketch out the dreams within their hearts. Each dulling stroke, each worn-down edge, was proof of a life lived with meaning. It might not be sharp anymore, but within, it held a soul rich with purpose. Now, as its journey neared the end, it had no regrets, because it knew it had left a mark. One quiet evening, as the old pencil rested inside a weathered wooden box, the workshop door slowly creaked open. A young boy named Tom stepped in. He had just begun learning to write, but worry filled his innocent face. His hand trembled slightly as he gently picked up the old pencil, and he whispered, "What if I mess up? What if my words aren't good enough?" Though it couldn't speak, the pencil smiled in its quiet way. It had once been just like Tom, young, unsure, and afraid of mistakes, sharpened time and again to grow stronger. And now, it knew, it was time to pass on what it had learned. "You were made with a purpose," the pencil seemed to whisper into Tom's heart. "Every great writer, every great thinker, once began with a single, imperfect stroke. You don't need to be perfect. What matters is that you begin." Tom sat down and started to write. His grip was still uncertain. After a few lines, he stopped. A mistake, a wrinkle formed on his brow. Once again, the pencil gently reminded him, "Mistakes can be corrected. You see, at my end, there's an eraser. It's there to remind you that every error can be undone. What matters isn't being flawless, but having the courage to keep going." Tom smiled slightly, erased the line, and kept writing. Soon the pencil began to dull. Tom reached for the sharpener and paused. Should he keep wearing it down? The pencil whispered once more, "Sharpening is necessary. Sometimes growth brings discomfort, but that's how you become sharper, stronger, better. Don't be afraid of the pain that shapes you. It reveals the greatness within." Tom was starting to understand. Pain, mistakes, and struggle, they weren't signs of failure. They were part of the path. And the pencil continued, "Your true worth comes from within, not from your shape, your length, or how new you are. The same is true for you, Tom. Your value doesn't lie in looks, status, or the opinions of others, but in your ideas, your heart, and the impact you choose to make." Tom held the pencil tightly. For the first time, he didn't just write, he felt. He poured out emotions, turned thoughts into words, and left behind a mark. Then came the final lesson, a gentle, heartfelt whisper. "Leave your mark. Every line you write, every thought you share is part of the legacy you build. Don't try to be perfect. Be meaningful. Use your voice to give, to inspire, and to make even the smallest change." As Tom's notebook filled with stories and dreams, the pencil neared its end. But it wasn't sad. It smiled, in that quiet, knowing way only an old pencil can. It had fulfilled its purpose, to pass on courage, spark creativity, and light the fire of purpose. With one final stroke, the old pencil faded away. But in that moment, it didn't disappear. It became a part of Tom's soul. A part of the story. He would keep writing. Not just his own, but one rooted in something greater. And so the journey went on. Tom, now more confident, more grounded, kept writing. Because the pencil had left behind something far more lasting than graphite. It left behind a legacy. The courage to begin, the strength to grow, and the wisdom to keep moving forward.